Welcome to another exciting episode of MBNA's Monument Matters, a podcast produced by the Monument Builders of North America for all things memorialization. I'm your host, Mike Johns, CM AICA from the Johns Carabelli Company, Cimarano Monuments and Flowers, coming to you from our not-so-state-of-the-art studio in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. I'm also a past president of Monument Builders of North America. MBNA is a 118-year-old association whose mission is to define and promote memorialization in a viable, innovative, and diversified way for its members, and to enhance awareness of memorialization by the general public and the entire remembrance industry. In that spirit of promoting memorialization, the MBNA Marketing Committee has created this podcast as an extension of our monthly magazine, MB News. Each podcast episode features a discussion related to a magazine theme. Monument Matters podcasts invite everyone to listen and share. You'll find all of the episodes of our first season on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Today, I'm talking with my friend Nathan Lange, CM, MBNA's current president. He and his wife Lori are owners of Northland Companies Group, which includes Northland Monuments in its third generation with 3 locations in Minnesota. Hello and welcome, Nathan.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me and our rapidly growing audience on the podcast today. Northland has been associated with MBNA for over 40 years now. Would you please share with us how membership in MBNA has become a part of your company's success?
Membership in MBNA has we've always been a member and always contributed, and I would say probably in the last 15 years, we really started to see the more benefits from the organization, and I think a lot of that comes from us putting more into it, right? They always say you get out what you put in. So, we tried to be more involved in the organization, more involved with the people, and really it just exponentially grew in the last 15 years.
Great. So share with us your personal journey with MBNA and how it brought you to lead this association.
So we used to, like I said, we've always been a member and we've always been part of MBNA. And it used to be my aunt and my parents back in the day that they were always part of it, but they weren't really ever involved with it. They were part of it. They used some of the benefits that were there. But then when I kind of took over running the company, like I said, around 15 years ago or 10 years ago, my first MBNA show was in 2015 in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to that show. I didn't know a single person. I think I knew Tony Watson and maybe Dave Scott. Just a couple guys that I met through School of Hard Rocks. And but we were we went to the show. Me and my wife went back to our hotel every night. We never went to dinner with anybody. We didn't know anybody. It was just really, but the people that did come up to me and talk to me, they were very friendly, very helpful, and very informative, right? I mean, so we did get to know a lot of people that first year. And just at that point, I knew I wanted to be more involved with the industry and the organization. So the next convention, I signed up to be on the setup and teardown crew. And that just completely changed the way I looked at the organization. It was a wonderful experience, and actually I've done setup and teardown every single year since for the major conventions. And after setup and teardown at that year, I knew I wanted to be more involved with the organization even further. So I reached out to some of the people that I did get to know at that point, and found out how I could become on the board. So I became a trustee for District 8 here in Minnesota and in surrounding states. Kind of went through that, role for quite some time, and then became VP of convention and handled that for a few years, handling all of our conventions, and then obviously into president-elect, and then now our current year as president. So that's kind of been the long story there. So
It's not an unfamiliar one to me.
right.
Similar to my journey through the seat as president, and now you're a podcast host.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
For those listeners who may not be members of MBNA, what would you tell them to consider?
I definitely consider to join. If you're apprehensive about joining, I mean, definitely make it to one of our conventions, either the education and or the full convention, and you can definitely see what we're all about. Like I said, in the last 10 years, the relationships I've built, the education that we've gotten, and the betterment of our business, whether it's, it's not just all about monuments, it's also about business, it's about HR, it's about learning the skills of how to make these monuments by hand again. um, it's definitely the top tier place to learn all of that, and as well as the people. I can never say enough about how the people in this organization are welcoming. I mean, I had a phone call yesterday, over an hour long, with a company that I really didn't even know, but they reached out. We wanted to have a conversation. I mean, we talked about business strategies and onboarding employees and how we can grow, together, or my ideas and his ideas. And we just sat there, right? I mean, without MBNA, that would have probably never happened because I never would have known the person. So, somebody we met at a convention, I've known them for a while, their organization, but then we kind of reached out and started talking, and there's a lot of value in that. We're all in this industry creating memorials for loved ones and monuments, and we're running businesses, and we want to succeed. We want to, have food for our family, right? We want to pay for our toys, whatever it may be. We do this for a living, but there's a lot there, and you don't have to do it alone. We're all have the same struggles. We all are dealing with the tariffs. We're all dealing with employees. We're all dealing with HR. We're dealing with bookkeeping. At the end of the day, we all deal with the same exact problems. So, stronger together, right? So the more you can ask questions, the more you can learn, the faster you can learn that, the better off you're going to be.
100%. Stronger together. I think that's a great takeaway. For the listening audience who may think that this is becoming a little bit of uh, a clicky kind of podcast because the majority of the people that I introduce as my friend so and so, my friend Nathan today, my friend Scott earlier. Um, it's because of MBNA that I'm able to say my friend this and my friend that. And that is one part of MBNA that you cannot really put on paper. It's really difficult to get someone who hasn't dipped a toe, who hasn't come to that first meeting to really understand the potential of growing that resource base, not just for business, but personally as well. So I think it's a really strong organization because of the people.
100%. The people make it. I mean, like I was saying, for Cleveland, I mean, I've got people. I mean, I flew to a different town and got picked up by a monument builder that I've become close friends with. We drove to another town, 2 hours out of the way, to go have drinks and spend the night at another monument builder's, and then drove over to Cleveland. And then when we got there, we went to your house and had a cocktail on your porch. Like, them things don't happen without getting to know people and the relationships that are built. So when we say they're friends, it truly is like, and without the organization and without, you know, me putting the effort into it and wanting to be involved, I would have never met you. I would have never met any of these people. And so there is, along, like I said, along with all the other things that come along with it, the hardest ROI to put on anything is the relationship building. But honestly, it's probably the number one value that I can say is the relationships.
Absolutely. And I think you'll agree, being president of Builders of North America is a big job, right? But there's a lot of support through the new staff, through the other trustees. But no matter how many hours I put in when I was president and coming up through the board, the ROI was just exponential. And I'm sure that you're feeling the same thing as well.
Yes, being that I just became president, right now there's a whole lot of Zoom meetings. But I mean, what I really enjoy is the direction of the board right now. I really feel like these last few years we've done a lot of building, we've done a lot of work behind the scenes. I feel like it's kind of like the slingshot effect. Everything's happening, we're pulling backwards, and the things that the board want to do and what we're going to do with education and our CM programs and all of this stuff is just going to slingshot forward, right? I mean, sitting in these calls with education and just listening to them guys drum up ideas. I mean, there's so many smart people in those rooms and they have so many great ideas, and it's great that we're finally in a position where we're going to be able to implement those ideas and make them become reality. Um, So I'm really excited to see that happen and be proud of being a small part of that, right? I mean, it takes, yes, I'm the president, but I mean, it takes the entire board and all of staff and all of the volunteers that aren't on the board, right? I mean, our education committee, I think they said they got 6 or 7 people now on that committee, and a lot of them aren't board members. They're just volunteers that want to help out. We've got our CM program that's starting up again that we're kind of revamping, and there's multiple volunteers that are willing to help, just to create that education and that value, because they want to be a part of it as well, and that's really encouraging to see.
Absolutely. So recently, MBNA members got a glimpse of how Cleveland rocks at the 2025 Monument Industry Show. So, as the current president of the association, what are your short-term and long-term aspirations for the association?
Well, yes, I mean we definitely rocked Cleveland, right? I think it that show was amazing. Hats off to our vendors and the attendees. I think everybody pulled it off. The closing reception was amazing. Um, you know, Going through that show and becoming president in that show, I mean, I walked the floor and it took me all 3 days to even get through the show. I mean, I met so many amazing people, so many amazing vendors, and everything that was going on there. Um, it really took me a while to step back and take a look and see, okay, where should the board go and what should I help with, and a couple of things that were really long term I'm excited about as far as our directions is going to be the CM program. I know there's a lot of like, oh, why are you a CM? Why is this, right? And we're kind of going to be revamping that, and hopefully, my goal is to help our retailers. The CM is a great program, but we're going to make it better. So we're going to be making that into 6 different tiers. And the goal of that is going to be is like when you hire a company or hire a new employee, you're going to be able to give them education of one of the tiers. Now, to be a CM, you got to get all the details aren't worked out, but you're going to have to pass all 6 tests in order to be a CM. But you can give your new shop employee one of the tests and say, here's some education, here's some learning, take the test, and you're going to be certified in that area. And we can use these for onboarding our new employees, for educating our current employees. And let's say if you got a person that's in one area and they're going to move into sales, well, here's some additional information that's curated through MBNA that person can learn, because there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, and we're trying to sum that up, and each company has their own values and their own way of doing it, but we're hoping to give some broader education that we can now give to these people versus just read a book, take a test. But we're really hoping that it becomes a tool that our current retailers can use to help their new employees. um, One of the great things I seen walking around convention and talking to people was the amount of young people at this last show. And it's really encouraging for the future of the industry to see all of these new generations coming in. Companies are being bought out by whether it's a family, but there's not even that. There's just young people buying into the industry that they said, "Hey, my friend had this business and I bought it." And some of the struggles they're dealing with is obviously employees and learning, and they weren't maybe a generational business that I've been doing this since I was 12 years old. So I'm really excited about some of that education that we're going to be coming out with, that we can hopefully help them people educate themselves. I mean, when we hire an employee, right, we know a lot of the terms, but when you tell somebody here's a base and a die, well, they're like, what are you talking about? Or here's a tablet, they're like, what are you talking about, right? I mean, we look at that information because we've been doing it our entire lives. So we're trying to get it down to the level of here's a new employee that's never been in this industry, and how can we help our retailers grow and become a better business in the end of the day.
Thanks, Nathan. So, with over 800 attendees at the show, including over 550 retailers, like you spoke of, not young and old, you must have had a lot of conversations. So, what are you hearing about the state of the industry, and what are your key takeaways?
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, I had so many conversations; they were kind of all blended into one there at the end. I met so many amazing people and had so many conversations with people, and I really think the industry is strong. And I think part of that is you can look at it at our last convention and see how many people turned out, see what the vendors are bringing. Um, I think the industry is going through some changes, which we've all seen and we're all going to be seeing. Um, not to throw you under the bus, but your generation is now on its way out, right, Mikey? You're going to have to leave someday. But it's true, but to see MJ3, your son, come into that role, right? And I spent a lot of time with him, and to see these younger generations come, and they want to shape the company into what their vision is, right? So what I really do see, there's some consolidation in the industry, which is going to happen, but there is a ton of new young people that are coming in. They're hungry for knowledge. They're hungry for changing the way things are done. Now, in this industry, that's always kind of like, oh, I don't really know what we've done it like this for a long time, right? There's still people in this industry that use fax machines, um, but right. So with that, a lot of that's going to be, they're going to change it, but it's no different than back in the day when they used to hand cut letters to bring in a plotter, right? I mean, there's huge shifts in the industry, and I believe we're going to be on the forefront of that. There's going to be new technologies. There's going to be new ways of doing things, and this younger generation is going to be the one bringing that in because they're up on that. That's what they live. So I think currently the current talk on everybody's mind is tariffs, tariffs, tariffs. And there's a lot of unforeseens. And I think we're going to be, MBNA's actually, we had a huge meeting yesterday about that whole process and what we're going to be hopefully rolling out some education on that. Um, but, together we can get through this. It's no different than when COVID hit. It was a heck of a time for the monument industry. We learned a lot. We all came through it. And at the end of the day, hopefully, all of our businesses were stronger. So I'm really excited for the future of the industry, and a lot of, like I said, to see the last few years before this. I mean, you've seen a lot of older generations, and you're like, man, where's this going to go? I mean, eventually, you're in your 60s, and you're like, well, them guys are going to retire, right? They're that age. But to see the young now this year is really exciting to see.
That's a great observation, Nathan, and thanks for mentioning my son Michael. You know, I look back in the early 80s when we got our first computer. Now, keep in mind, we're a company that never had a stencil press. Every single thing we drew by hand, every letter, every carving, we stenciled it by hand. Here comes the computer, and my grandfather says, what are we going to do with that? Well, today, my statement is, what would we do without it? We just could not be viable. And, my son brings a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Yes, I'm 64 now. I'm starting to cut back my hours, but for a long time, I had no idea how that exit strategy was going to look. My son was in the automotive industry. He was a master certified Mercedes tech. And when Mercedes said they were going to go all electric by 2025 or 26, whatever the date was, I don't remember, my son came to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about me coming back to work?" And I immediately saw exit strategy. But more than that, I saw his enthusiasm for the industry and what we do grow. I brought him to Hard Rocks. I brought him to convention. He's meeting his own group of friends. He's got his own peer group. He's learning from. He's developing skills and talents. He's finding resolution to problems just by talking. Sure, you can go on a Facebook group and you could post a question and you could get an answer from some random guy whose background you don't really know, because everything on the internet is the truth, right? Um, but building these relationships one on one, face to face, so you know the guy that's answering your question, you know the guy that you could confide in, you know the guy that's had similar or different experience, because similar is okay, but sometimes different is even better, right? You get that here through MBNA.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I mean, it's you run into an issue in your company, and I mean, a perfect example is even with your son there, like, you guys had this crazy monument that's, got hit or slid off the base or whatever, and there's a group of us, and we called each one of us, and we're all talking through it, and good, bad, or ugly, right? At the end of the day, you guys were able to get this piece picked up and moved, but you had advice from all over the world, and I've done the same. I mean, I've called numerous I mean, when I bought my company from my parents. I mean, I called other monument companies that I've learned or met through this industry, and I'm like, hey, man, how did you do it? Let's have a one on one conversation because the internet's telling me this, and Cass County Economics is telling me this, and the lawyers are telling me this, and like, what worked for you, right? And you have you have that conversation, and then you have that 3 4 times with different people you meet, and pretty soon you come up with your own way of doing it. And that's what's, like I said, it's great to see. So and with the younger generation, like you mentioned with your son and a lot of them, yes, it's exciting. They are meeting people, they're having their own little groups. You can see it at like setup and teardown, like this little group's hanging out, and they're all the same age, and it's amazing, like I said, to see, because that's the next generation, right? um, I'm in that generation, but I'm a little bit older than them guys yet. So, but I'm not as old as you, so I'm good yet.
No, that's true. But you know what? From my perspective, it's great that he's building those relationships with peers his own age, but he's also building relationships with peers that are older and younger. I've got a great group that I call my friends that are as many as 30 years younger than I am, and I'm learning from them just as much as they're learning from me. So it's just tremendous. And to circle back for a quick second, you kind of glossed over that monument issue that we had. That tablet was 8,000 pounds, and it was partway hanging off the base because it got hit by a tree. And I'm not going to tell you the solution, but I will tell you that it was something that in my 50 years experience, I never would have thought to do. And it was so basic and simple, and it worked, and it was beautiful. And again, an opportunity that I had that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for my involvement with MBNA. So, what comes next for MBNA? Share with us the conversations happening among the leadership. Where are we going?
Well, just so since convention, we've had quite a few meetings here, and one of the short term things that we're dealing with is like I mentioned earlier is the tariffs. We've got some education coming there as soon as possible. We're just trying to make it as simple as we can, to kind of to talk through the tariff a little bit. We've got some people that work with that area all the time, and try to help our retailers the best we can in that. I mean, we aren't the silver bullet with that. We can't go lobby. We don't lobby the government to try to take tariffs away. It's a catch-22. You have domestic manufacturers and you have importers as well. So we're dealing with some of that. The other conversations, obviously, we're already starting to plan for our education next year, which we're partnering with Southern. So that's going to be in Fort Worth next February, I think. So the convention committee is already working on that. We're putting together a call for education here soon, so we can dial in our education that we're going to be performing there. The cool thing with that convention that's coming up is we're going to be partnering with Southern, um, and in moving forward, MBNA, we're trying to make things better as an industry, and part of that's going to be to partner with regional events, on our education years. So this year is going to be Southern. We're not sure who's next year, but so that way two things can happen, right? I mean, that's one less show the retailers have to decide to go to. And if we can make one show better and bigger and better for everybody, I think it's a win for our industry overall than saying, here, there's 10 shows this year. Which one do I want to go to? Because no one in their right mind can go to all of them, as well as the vendors, right? I mean, we're working with them guys to create better booths and have more stone. And what can we do for you guys so that you guys can bring more material so that our retailers have more to look at? The other end of it would be, like I mentioned earlier with our CM program that's getting completely revamped. So we're creating the committee. I mean, it's literally in the starting stages of that, which is going to be a long, long process to get this all done up. But Troy Caldwell is working on that, and if you guys haven't worked with him, he's an amazing instructor, an amazing talent. Actually, he's got a webinar coming up on flaming granite, and a bunch of other things too. So we're working through some of that to get more of that, and then the education's also planning out webinars. We got our webinar coming up for that. We have a webinar I'm actually personally doing on using AI in your business. We got some, and then they're planning this fall's webinars. WIM MBNA has got multiple webinars coming up as well. I mean, I can't remember the next webinar that's called, but I think they've got over 130 people registered for it already. which is, Allison did the one on market share, which is amazing, the information that came out with. So they're trying to build on some of that side of the business with their education as well.
Thank you, Nathan, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today. I personally want to thank you for all that you bring to MBNA and its members. So to circle back, you said how you're on all of these Zoom calls with all these smart people in the room and all of that, but there's still room for you, the listener. MBNA is always looking for volunteers, whether it to be serve on the committee, be interested in becoming a trustee, or just send in a note to let us know what you think, what you're dealing with, what your concern is, how can we help you? So the April issue of MB News highlights the new and evolving member benefits. I encourage anyone considering membership to visit the MBNA website to download the full member benefits handbook. The May issue of MB News is an expanded issue with photos from the 2025 Monument Industry Show, along with a full contact list featuring all of the exhibitors that were present. It's a great reference tool for anyone in the monument industry. So thank you for listening to Monument Matters. MBNA invites you to stay connected through Facebook and LinkedIn, or visit us at www.monumentbuilders.org for upcoming events and webinars. For MBNA and Monument Matters, I'm Michael Johns. Thank you for taking time out of your day and away from your reels to listen in. If you found today's content worthwhile, please share the link with a friend. For comments and feedbacks, we'd love to hear from you. Please drop us a note at info@monumentbuilders.org. Take care.